Okay.
Recording is in progress.
Okay, thank you so much once again for joining us in this wonderful program. This is the day 3 of the training we have commenced since day before yesterday on disaster awareness, disaster management, disaster planning, disaster recovery. All has to be in this training, which we have begun since day before yesterday. And His Excellency Ambassador Andrew Williams Jr. has been a facilitator so far, and he has been doing wonderfully well when it comes to training and enlightenment about the operations of this training we are undergoing, not just for you to be trained, but you must know wherever you are in your community or your various country or continent where you are joining us from, you must be able to practicalize. You must be able to utilize this training that you have come to receive. You must be able to get involved wherever you find yourself. And you must be able to provide humanitarian services. And that's the essence of this training. And we had so many testimonies since we began this training. And we have people sharing their ideas and experiences with us based on what they have learned or encountered when it comes to this disaster. And thank you so much for joining us once again, Ambassador Andrew, to take the class for today. And we want to officially as well welcome everyone joining us in this program. I remain Chaplain Dr. James Mercy Obatumibi, the Chief Executive Officer for World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity. And we have put this training together, WHOPE in conjunction with AHIABGA and Andrew Networks, to make sure this program is done. Also with BEMA International, who has joined us in this training to make sure that all the participants have the knowledge about the disaster planning, recovery, management, or whatsoever we might want to put it. So if you are joining us today, I say thank you once again for joining us. And I want to congratulate you because this training is not every day. It is not every now and then. It is a great opportunity we have to put you on this workshop. So please, I want you to stay tuned. If you have any question, you drop that in the chat. And also, if you are joining us, please join us by using your name as you are entering, so we're able to take the proper record of our attendance. If you are joining us with the name of a phone, that will be invalid. Joining us with a nickname, that will be invalid because that might not come up in your certificate for participation. So thank you as you are here today, and you stay tuned as Ambassador Andrew Williams Jr. will proceed into this program. Thank you, Your Excellency Andrew Williams Jr., and over to you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. In particular, thanks for those that are joining us new. We will be providing you with a replay of the previous day's events, workshops. So if you continue with us today and tomorrow, you will certainly receive your certificate. I'm going to share my screen now. This may be the last time you see me for a while. I have multiple devices, so you'll be hearing me, but you won't see me. But I wanted to thank all of you for joining us. Give me just a moment. I'm going to do a couple of things here, share my screen, and then I'm going to start another device. So bear with me just a moment.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you. I've changed devices now. Can everyone hear me okay? Or can anyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so very much. I am Andrew Williams Jr., and I'm president of 5 Points Youth Foundation here in Los Angeles, California. I'm also the chairperson of the International Advisory Board for the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, whose CEO and founder, Chaplain Dr. James Mercy Obentubibi, was just on the screen. This workshop is also being conducted in conjunction with Lady Alicia Hamilton of the United States of America. She's the founder of the Revelation Network, and that grew into the Universal Citizens Media Network, and now is being brought to you by the New World Network. This program is being live streamed to our Facebook page, but it's also being streamed on the New World Network as well. We had a special guest all this week, Dr. Charles D. Sharp from Washington, D.C. He's the president and CEO of the Black Emergency Managers Association. So this is certainly in his wheelhouse. These 4-day workshops, volunteer workshops, are dealing with disaster awareness, disaster planning, disaster preparation, and disaster recovery. However, I do need to let you know that this is not a one-off event or workshop. This is the third weekly workshop we've held. The first introduced the Sustainable Development Goals, and the second introduced the United Nations Global Compact, which 10 principles addressing human rights, labor, the environment, and anti-corruption work hand in glove with the Sustainable Development Goals. And this week's event has been dealing with disaster awareness, planning, and preparation. However, again, this is not in a vacuum. It still is in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. In this particular case, it's related to something called the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. However, before I take that step, let me do my station identification here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to change the screen I share. Let me put it that way. Oh, but first, I apologize. First, let me do due diligence for those people that are just joining us now and introduce the host of this program, the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity. For those of you who don't know, it is, in fact, driven by a motto of togetherness and humanitarianism. You can find us at w-hope.org. And the background of HOPE is inspired by the motivation and inspiration behind HOPE establishment is localizing the Sustainable Development Goals for humanity. Humanity is experiencing discrimination, racism, violence, corruption, inequality, hatred, political ignorance, religious intolerance, etc. Youth unemployment, which includes graduates, has led to their involvement in vandalism, robbery, hooliganism, wanderings, immorality, lawlessness, etc. Violations of human rights, unlawful detentions, breach of contract, circulation of fake news, etc. This entire publication will be made available to you. And again, thanks to those that are just joining us. But we will, in fact, be able to share with you this document so that you can follow up with it. I must ask you to mute yourself if you're not speaking. Let me first make several co-hosts to assist me in that endeavor. Just a moment, please. So Professor Anita, your co-host, if you could watch my back, I'd appreciate it. Chaplain James, if I can find you here, I'm going to make you a co-host as well. I don't see you. Oh, yeah, here you are. So you two are my co-hosts. Give me just a moment, please. Okay. So you're both my co-hosts here. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here if I can. This is actually being streamed, as I said, right now on the AHIABGA-TV network. So for all the past workshops we've had, you can refer people here. It's accessible to anyone that's on Facebook. And you see we're actually streaming right now content that we're sharing. I do want to also let you know that this is being streamed as well, if I can find it, on, yes, the AHIABGA-TV network. It's at AHIABGA.NWN.TV. And this is free registration. You must subscribe. This is a private network. It's not like YouTube. You will not find any explicit sex or violence. We only have educational programming here. And this is the network provided by our co-sponsor, Lady Alicia Hamilton. Next year, we will actually be having events that will be held through the network, including all of you who are here. We're looking for media ambassadors so that you can represent one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. So for those that are new here, we're asking you to identify which of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals your main focus is. The intent is for us to aggregate our efforts around the world so that we stand in unity to leave no one behind. But again, if you can see right here, we're live streaming this on the New World Network as we speak. It's going right now. These 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we'll go into the more detail shortly, but these are the guidelines that we're working from. There are also several other categories that are being addressed on a local basis. They include arts in focus, body active, how the rent gets paid, learning minds, new, small, home-based, and international business news, on the air, in the air, opinion, comments, and questions, personalized pen pals, politics, technology, and humanities, spiritual essentials, student spotlight, and women's world. All these are on a separate blog. And the idea is that information that we need to, let's see here. I'm afraid I can't find on my screen here. Well, here it is. And again, this will be going live on January 1st of next year, but it seems I can't share with you right now the blog aspect of it. However, before I go into the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, you can find me and find this information at andrewnetworks.com. All of the material that I've used this week, I've pulled from this website. So again, this is kind of like an open book test. You'll see that we introduced the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Global Compact, and you can join our mailing list. So we're asking you to keep in touch with us to get information as we go forward about our activities. For those that are joining us new, we are dealing with the Sustainable Development Goals in an existing framework called Happiness SDG Pyramid. That breaks down the Sustainable Development Goals into 3 separate categories. The first 10 are dealing with people. The next 5 deal with ecology, the health of our planet. And the top tier deals with the spiritual aspects, which the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity is focused on number 16. And all of my work is focused on number 17. These are, again, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Number 10, reduced inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 13, climate action. Number 14, life below water. Number 15, life on land. Number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And number 17, partnerships for the goals. However, of course, you cannot see beyond your screen, but I myself am disabled. I've been disabled since I suffered a childhood injury when I was 7 years old, but that has not prevented me from using my talent, skills, and abilities to do what I can to leave no one behind. But the United Nations also has a specific list of those 17 goals dealing with people with disabilities. That will be part of the booklet that I'll be sharing with you soon. So as a background, you can find, again, this information at andrewnetworks.com. It is, in fact, a fictitious business name of my corporation, the Personalized Advertising Representatives Export Trading Company. And this was launched on March the 10th of 1984. So actually, I'll be celebrating the 40th anniversary of that next year. We also do work in Asia. We do have, in fact, an ongoing operation where we're providing electricity and water to the Negritos and indigenous peoples for the first time in history. That began last year. So we are proud to work with you to bring this information. But again, for those of you who have been going along with our workshop, when the Sustainable Development Goals were launched in 2015, there was a companion initiative launched called the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. This is what brings us here today. And again, for those of you who may not be aware, Sendai is not a made-up word. It is a specific city in the country of Japan where the meeting was held to establish the Sustainable Development, the Sendai Framework, which outlines 7 global goals, targets to be achieved between 2015 and 2030. The intent is to substantially reduce global disaster mortality, reduce the number of affected people, reduce economic loss in relation to GDP, reduce damage to critical infrastructure and services disruption. However, there's also a simultaneous push to substantially increase the number of countries with national and local disaster risk reduction strategies. And that's what brings us here. We represent the civil society. We're volunteers in our community, but we're representing the effort to leave no one behind. So while there's an attempt at a national level to substantially increase the number of countries and nations with disaster risk reduction strategies, it's our task to address and apply adaptation strategies for our local communities. Secondarily, the intent is to substantially increase international cooperation to developing countries. And I am, as I said, chairperson of the International Advisory Board for WHOPE, but also of the Saga Foundation, which has been dedicating its time to connect the dots between Canada and Nigeria, Kenya, and India as part of what we do from a grassroots level. And finally, the intent is to substantially increase the availability and access to early warning systems and disaster risk reduction information. So this workshop is intended to address that issue. We're providing you with disaster risk reduction information at the local level, but we're asking you to also be alert and aware and represent to us what disaster awareness, planning, preparation, and recovery efforts you yourself are involved with, or that you have witnessed in your general community, or what resources you can share with us so that we can use it to do what I call is localize the Sustainable Development Goals. What that means is very simple. We source local solutions to address global issues, and we source global solutions to address our local issues. So for those members of this workshop today, I want to certainly thank you for this opportunity to work with you to accomplish these objectives. Before I move forward, let me say that this workshop is not intended to be a feel-good exercise. We're intended to actually, the scope and purpose of this workshop is only one of an ongoing series of efforts that will all work together to substantially reduce disaster risk and loss in lives, livelihoods, and health in the economic, physical, social, cultural, and environmental assets of persons, businesses, and countries. So it's very important that you educate yourself about what tools and resources that are available. Yesterday, we went in depth in specific tools and resources that are available on a global basis. And for those that are just joining us today, we will make that information available to you. But I want to bring another important resource to you. It's called the New Urban Agenda. It's brought to you by the UN Habitat. Unlike the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals focused on the period between 2015 and 2030. Oh, by the way, that's just the second phase of the Millennium Development Goals that began in 2000. So we're over halfway towards accomplishing now the Sustainable Development Goals, even though recent studies indicate that we're only 15% towards accomplishing these goals and objectives. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but there's planning that goes on separate and apart from that. And this New Urban Agenda by UN Habitat began in 2016 for a 20-year period of time. So this is going to run through 2036. This is information you can use right this minute to address issues in your local community. And I'm urging each of you to access this simply by going on your phone or your computer and type in Illustrated New Urban Agenda. What you'll find is that there are tools and resources within this handbook. And I'll just read it to you for those that can't see the small writing. The New Urban Agenda Illustrated Handbook unpacks the propositions of the New Urban Agenda and highlights their synergies with the Sustainable Development Goals and targets. It subdivides and maps the New Urban Agenda into 3 chapters. Number 1, core dimensions. Number 2, means of implementation. And number 3, governance, follow-up, and review. The handbook includes definitions, visual illustrations, examples from all over the world, and practical propositions for action to help all urban stakeholders understand and implement the New Urban Agenda. I'll put the link to this in the chat, but you can just click on this link and read the entire book if you so choose. However, what I'm encouraging you to do is each of you to get a certificate, not from WHOPE, but from the UN Habitat by taking this online course. The New Urban Agenda online crash course is accessible via any internet-connected device. This is fully interactive, immersive learning experience in 2 parts. The course presents the New Urban Agenda in an engaging and flexible format. You can click this link and sign up to start learning now. Before I move forward and take a deep dive into the book itself, I want to walk you through what you can find on your phone anywhere in the world to be able to access this as a resource you can use for your own learning. But what I'm hoping is that each of you participates in what we call train the trainer. So the idea is for you to grasp and understand these resources, and then each one teach one. This information is currently available. I believe I'll be able to share my screen, just share my sound. Give me just a moment, please. I need to make an adjustment so you can hear me. Yeah, share sound. And share optimize for video. So I'm going to again just click on the 4 dimensions of the New Urban Agenda. They include social sustainability, economic sustainability, Thank you for your patience. I lost my connection just a moment, but I'm now able to share my screen again. Thank you for your patience. So I'm not sure if you heard the last thing I said, so I'll repeat it. There are 4 core dimensions of the new urban agenda. They deal with social sustainability, economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and spatial sustainability. You do not have to guess what these mean. You can click on this link and find out.
Urban populations have historically become increasingly feminized, with more women and female-led households migrating to urban areas. Because cities are centers for employment and education, women often migrate. Urban populations have historically become increasingly feminized, with more women and female-led households migrating to urban areas. Because cities are centers for employment and education, women often migrate to cities for economic opportunities and to lift themselves or their families out of rural poverty. Urbanization has the potential to empower women and girls and improve quality of life. But urbanization also means gender-specific perils and challenges. Gender equity is multifaceted and will require deliberate planning by municipal governments to ensure that urbanization benefits all members of the population. The economic output of a city is measured by gross domestic product, GDP. GDP can be increased by better allocation of production factors, increasing productivity. Productivity can be described via multiple economic indicators. The output of firms within a municipality, often expressed as GDP per capita, as well as individual earnings and wages, can be used to compare different jurisdictions. In rural areas, high economic productivity can occur in large land holdings with industrial production, but at the urban level, it cannot be achieved without urbanization. Economic development in the West and the rapid development of East Asia occurred within the context of urbanization. Urbanization allows labor to shift from the agricultural sector to more diversified productive sectors, including manufacturing and services. Cities are at the heart of the environmental issues the world faces. City officials and policymakers manage land and environmental resources. These resources are essential to the long-term sustainability of human settlements and to the linkages between the natural and built environment. Smart resource management, deliberate land use planning, and city policies related to the environment can be determinants of public health, quality of life, and social cohesion. Cities both contribute to climate change and can be effective instruments in curbing its impacts. Timely action to adapt to climate change impacts can have tremendous positive externalities. In coastal cities, the cost of adaptation can be 1/10 of the cost of the consequences if there is no action. Rising sea levels, storms, and other weather events could force hundreds of millions of people from their homes. The Global Center on Adaptation and World Resources Institute estimate that this could lead to a total cost to coastal urban areas of more than $1 trillion each year by 2050. Spatial sustainability relates to the long-term ability of cities to successfully plan for their increased urbanization and growth. Going beyond the built environment, spatial sustainability is fundamentally about people and access. It is important that all individuals living within a city, regardless of income level or identity, can access housing, centers of employment, and essential public services. These public services, including roads, transportation networks, schools, hospitals, water, and sanitation, should be equitably distributed and of equal quality for all residents. The outcomes associated with these services, including health, economic well-being, upward mobility, and overall quality of life, are linked to space and planning policies. For example, in the developed world, disparities of access exist within prosperous cities and regions. Access to employment centers, education, and essential public services can differ radically between individual neighborhoods within cities and regions. For example, in Paris, all other factors held equal, neighborhood is an important factor in the likelihood of finding employment.
Thank you for your patience. Again, I'm encouraging you to start your learning experience today. These workshops are not intended to be linear. They're intended to be immersive. However, it's likely that of the 30 people that registered, only 10%, 3, will do anything about anything they learn here. But we're providing you, all of you, with the opportunity to do so. The idea is to empower yourself, to empower your community, to empower the world, or in other words, to heal yourself, to heal your community, and heal the world. I'm encouraging you to sign up for the Urban New Agenda Crash Course. This will not be a test that you can submit to us. It's an online test so that you can then be able to encourage those people in your own organization to also take the crash course. You must begin with understanding the language that's used by your local government or community and your national government and community and the worldwide community in dealing with these issues that are facing us. You can use any device. This is self-paced. Start wherever, whenever you want, and proceed at your own pace. The total duration is expected to be 6 to 8 hours. Each of the 2 parts of the course takes about 3 to 4 hours to complete. At the completion, an official UN Habitat certificate is awarded on completion of each part of the course. For those members of the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, I'm going to encourage Pastor James to set up a special committee that deals with those of us who are qualified and have certificates in this course in order to participate with other activities that are intended for the development of FOPE and expansion of FOPE worldwide. The certificate will include your name and the official logo of the UN Habitat, as well as being signed by the highest level executive of that organization. So I encourage you to, again, simply in your browser, type in unhabitat.org, New Urban Agenda Illustrated Toolkit. You can just type that in your Google search and it'll come up. And we're encouraging all to sign up today. Do not wait until after this workshop is completed. It's at your own pace. The intent here is for you to empower yourself, and you can do that as you move forward in this. Once you click the link, you will be able to find additional information about the course by clicking on that link. But you cannot continue unless you register, sign in. I'm already registered. Once you type in and get your credentials, you'll be able to log in if your computer is fast enough to allow you to do so. And there you can find all this information. One of the most important resources is the glossary, because in order for you to have any meaningful impact on the government that you're of the city or nation that you're living in, you have to know what words they use to describe activities that you want to impact. This is just a very brief example of the glossary. It describes agglomeration economies, building codes, capital planning, charrette, climate change adaptation, climate change mitigation, climate change resilience, creative industries, cultural heritage, densification, ecosystem services, equity, fiscal decentralization, green infrastructure, housing stock, incremental housing, infill development, informal settlement, informality, Internet of Things, IoT, intervention mechanism, joint venture, land cadastry, land titling, land use planning, land value capture, marginalized groups, master plan, micromobility, mixed use development, monocentric form, participatory budgeting, participatory planning, peri-urban areas, polycentric form, population density, public-private partnerships, secondary city, sustainable development goal, smart cities, social capital, spatial capital, stakeholder, transit connectivity, transit-oriented development, upzoning, urban growth boundary, urban heat island effect, urban sprawl, value chain, zoning, and zoning overlay. To the left, you'll be able to also click to find a bibliography, the sources of this information at your own pace. You can, in fact, take a deep dive into the background of all the information that's being shared with you. This is very extensive. It's not something you can do in 5 minutes or even 8 hours or even 8 days or even 8 weeks or even 8 months. But this is a lifelong learning experience and resources for you to take full advantage of it. In the introduction, again, you'll have access to the glossary and the bibliography, and the introduction walks you through the steps that are necessary for you to take the crash course. This information is readily available 24 hours a day. It's been available since 2016, or I should say, this new online course is only now being made available to you, but the underlying principles have been in effect for over a decade. In fact, longer than that, because this is Habitat 3. So technically, this really began before the millennium began. This information is currently available to you. All these resources are available to you to be able to click and learn and take these online courses. Here's one example.
By 2030, 6 out of 10 people in the world are expected to live in urban areas. Our world's rate of urbanization, the gradual increase in the proportion of people living in urban areas, is remarkable. Cities take up approximately 2% of the land on Earth, yet consume over 60% of global energy. They are responsible for 70% of greenhouse gas emissions and contribute to 70% of global waste. Throughout modern history, urbanization has been a major driver of development and poverty reduction. Cities are the arena for addressing many of the global challenges of today, ranging from extreme poverty and unemployment to environmental degradation and climate change. But if unplanned and poorly managed, urbanization can exacerbate many of the problems that it claims to solve. The challenges of building sustainable cities that meet future needs require new ways of thinking. The new urban agenda represents a shared vision for a better and more sustainable future. While the challenges facing cities, towns, and villages in different countries are varied, the new urban agenda is designed to be universally applicable. It has a long-term vision, sets out priorities and actions, and suggests tools that can be applied at the national, subnational, regional, and local levels. The new urban agenda helps governments and other relevant stakeholders to meet context-specific urban needs and challenges, and seize the opportunities offered by an urbanizing world.
So again, thank you for your patience and understanding. Everything that you heard there is included in the course, that particular beginning. You can again scroll down to the left-hand side. It's, as I said, free of charge for anyone to take advantage of this. And once you actually complete the video and information, you're then asked to take a test. And I'll just walk through this here. And you must be able to, let's see here. You must be, let's see here, action plan. You must be able to complete at least 60% of the tests in order for you to pass it. In this case, I got 2 out of 3, just to let you know. You can retry it if you want to find out where you made a mistake and go forward. But as long as you are able to accomplish at least 60% of the answers correctly, you will be able to get your certificate. I'm just going to take a few more moments here to walk you through it. This actually tells you about the structure of the New Urban Agenda, the structure of the course, and the core dimensions of the New Urban Agenda. As stated, they deal with 4 separate pillars. One is social sustainability. That means empowering marginalized groups, addressing gender equality, planning for migrants, ethnic minorities, and persons with disabilities, and age-responsive planning. The second pillar is economic sustainability. It addresses job creation and livelihoods, productivity, and competitiveness, while environmental sustainability addresses biodiversity and ecosystem conservation, resilience and adaptation to climate change, and climate change mitigation.
Social good.
This moment, please.
Cities will contribute to climate change.
For spatial sustainability, it addresses the spatial sustainability and equity, spatial sustainability and urban density. So this guide provides means of implementation for each of those. It provides you with guidelines for intervention mechanisms, which include national urban policies, land policies, housing and slum upgrading policies, urban legislation and regulation, urban design, municipal finance, and urban governance. It provides hard measures for infrastructure and services, addressing transport and mobility, energy, solid waste, water, and sanitation. It addresses soft measures, culture, education, health, and urban safety. And finally, technology and innovation. Technology, transportation, construction and building technology, mapping, and spatial data. Finally, for the governance follow-up and review process, it deals with global governance for the implementation of a new urban agenda, mobilization of financial resources for the implementation of a new urban agenda, capacity development, knowledge exchange, cooperation, and partnerships. The new urban agenda and urban dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, we're coming back to the Sustainable Development Goals. For monitoring and reporting, provides guidelines for reporting on the implementation of the new urban agenda and urban sustainable development goals, the new urban agenda monitoring framework, and the new urban agenda platform. And finally, it describes the UN Habitat's key role and mandate, the UN Habitat Assembly and governance structure, and the World Urban Forum. So with that, thank you so much again for allowing me to share this information. Today's resource is New Urban Agenda. I'm taking you within the online course that's freely available for anyone to join. These resources and information are critical to your understanding of how you can impact the world that you're in and the community that you're involved with on a local basis, so that we can work forward to global solutions for what we're trying to accomplish. In the interest of time, I'm just going to click through several of these tabs so that you can see this addresses information available for people around the world. In moving towards the conclusion of today's presentation, again, I urge you to simply go to, you can Google the new illustrated New Urban Agenda. We will provide a link to those that are attending here so that you can access it anywhere in the world that you choose. But I do want to also take this opportunity to make a transition, if I can. Give me just a moment, please. Trying to get back to, here we are. Okay, so I'm going to stop share and start share once again, so that for future editing purposes, it'll be relatively easy to divide the portions and times that we're working. So in the chat, I'm going to ask you to begin to put your questions and comments. That does not conclude today's presentation, but I did want to allow you to give a chance to digest what I've shared with you so far. And in my conclusion, I'm going to move towards, let's see here. Yes, in my conclusion for today, I want to bring to your attention the fact that we are at a very critical time. 2023, as I mentioned to you, means that we're over halfway towards accomplishing the set of the Sustainable Development Goals. But keep in mind, this was launched at the same time as the Paris Climate Agreement, where over 193 countries made voluntary commitments to attempt to keep the Earth's warming between 1.5 and 2% Celsius. And there are annual meetings that have been held since then. COP, Conference of Parties. And there is one that begins tomorrow. Tomorrow. So the affirmation and activities that we're involved with now have real world effects. But unless you know what they are, and unless you're aware of how they impact your local community, you can't teach your children. And the entire effort that I'm doing this for is not for me. I'm 65 years old. It's not for the people that grew up around me, many of whom aren't here. It's for the next generation. So I would have to ask you to also take responsibility, which is human right number 29, taking responsibility, and educate yourself about what's happening in the wider world. Whether you're in Malawi or in Nigeria or in Cleveland, Ohio, it's important for you to understand that we're all part of the one connected world. So I'm going to share with you this phrase, business as usual, because yesterday our guest, Charles D. Sharp, made it very clear we cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result, or we'll continue on a road to insanity. And doing business as usual that's brought us to where we are now is, in fact, a pathway to suicide for the entire world. This was published just yesterday. This is a file photo of the International Monetary Fund Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, who addresses the media on the fourth day of the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Marrakesh, Morocco, October 12th, just last month. But this article is available right now on Reuters. The head of the International Monetary Fund has called for an end to business as usual ahead of the start of the COP28 climate talks and warned such a route was not viable if the world wanted to manage global warming. I bring this to your attention because none of what we're talking about will have any relevance if the world we live in is unable for us to live in. So speaking to routers at the annual UN event prepares to open in Dubai on Thursday, tomorrow, Kristalina said climate damaging carbon emissions needed to fall between 25% and 50% by 2030. But pledges so far would only lead to a meager 11% cut. The most important thing in COP28 is to be clear that the way we're going is not viable. It defined a level of ambition that is likely to keep a chance for the world to live with temperatures not exceeding 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. Let's see if I can share this with you. Let's stop here, go here, go here, and go here.
The most important thing in COP28 is to be clear that the way we are going is not viable, and define a level of ambition that is likely to keep a chance for the world to live with temperatures not exceeding 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. Between 2019 and 2030, we have to shrink emissions somewhere between 25 and 50%, whereas all the commitments would give us a meager 11%. So that is, to my mind, the #1 priority for this COP is to recognize that business as usual has to be dropped.
So this does have implications for not just the United States of America, but for Nigeria as well, because a key theme of the talks will be what more governments can do to overhaul the world's multilateral financial system to ensure more money is made available to vulnerable countries already feeling the impacts of more extreme weather events. Georgieva said efforts to date, the World Bank, for example, would boost lending by $100 billion over a decade. Were very promising because there is finally a determination to make the whole bigger than the sum of the individual parts. One of the flagship efforts so far has been encouraging countries to allow some of their special drawing rights, rainy day foreign exchange reserves that are rarely used, to be on lent to development banks to help booster climate finance in developing markets. I'm moving to my conclusion, so thank you very much for your patience. Again, this is readily available if you type into your Google search IMF and business as usual. But in August, the IMF said 29 members had agreed so far, helping provide $55 billion for own lending through its Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust, which addresses ending poverty, SDG 1, and $41 billion through its Resiliency and Sustainability Trust. In addition, Georgieva said the African Development Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank have proposed using SDGs on co-lend to them as hybrid capital that could then be leveraged to expand their lending capacity. Again, I want to thank you for your patience. This information, while it seems to be off topic, is very much on topic because it deals with ways we in our local communities can address disaster planning, disaster preparation, and disaster recovery by involving ourselves with activities that impact our local community as well as our global community. So I'm going to move towards ending this portion of today's presentation, and I want to thank you so much for your attention, and the floor is now open for any comments or questions. Thank you. Pastor James, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm here. I think it's time for anyone that may want to ask a question. To you, everyone, that might need a question or want to know more about this, please, over to you. You can drop the question in the chat, or you raise your hand. Then we call you, you ask a question. Or you have any comment or anything to say. This is time for question. Are we all here? Please, can you turn on your camera? I believe we are all here because some of us, we are not sure you are even listening to us. Okay, thank you, Dr. Tumesha, for that. Thank you. Please, you can on your camera. Let's see your face. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Oh, wow, thank you. Now, do we have any question based on what we have heard, based on what we have listened to? And Ambassador Andrew is so much around to answer a question. Any question, please?
Well, the great news, Pastor James, is that you can do your roll call, and then we can find out who's actually here. And then we can move from there if you like.
Yes. I know they can come at any time to ask a question. If we do not have any question, should we ask you a question? Because we want to be sure you understood what we have learned or what we have gone through today. And at least to take home something. We want somebody to tell us what he or she have learned today. If you don't have a question, fine, but tell us what you have learned today. Amza, are you here, Amza? Go ahead. I'm going to call individual to talk about what they've learned today. Amza, Outer, are you here? Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Good evening, Doctor. Good evening, Williams Jr. I want to add up to what Williams Jr. said concerning the urban agenda on sustainable development goals. Some of the things that we discovered in the country and even some African countries is that the government implementation in terms of planning processes in cities and towns are not proper. Most of the challenges all over the world today that has to do with disaster and has to do with major challenges of disaster is basically on planning. The planning implementation policies, the planning implementation programs are not doable, are not visible. Let me give an example, like some part of the country, some part of the state in the country, like Lagos, Oyo State, Kogi, and some part of the state in the country. You will discover that there is poor planning processes where government is supposed to come in to do drainages, create channels where water will flow easily, drain the canals, are not. It is not visible. So in that, those areas are prone to hazard. They are prone to disaster. They are prone to a lot of dangers to the people living in the communities. And the people within the communities are also not given the government are not going around to look at what can we do to mitigate some of these problems in the future. When you don't have good urban renewal plans or you don't have good planning processes, it gives a lot of concern to people who live within the rural communities. And it's a challenge because the way the world is going today, in terms of climate change, in terms of this and that, if there is no good urban planning processes or agenda, there's going to be challenges in the future. And we as professionals have to start thinking, how do we engage government? How do we engage partners to speak to people, speak to government, so that policies and planning that can be visible, that can be helpful, to be put in place, so that these challenges, when these challenges are coming, there will be prompt areas, there will be alerts, there will be emergency response alerts, there will be emergency response signals to people, so that people that are more vulnerable can be assisted. So I think in this aspect of this urban agenda, I think this is what I think I needed to add, so that all of us can have more knowledge about the agenda.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Ambassador Andrew.
Okay, well, let me begin by saying thank you for your comment. But I also want to tell you that we have the solution in our fingertips. You're having a statement about what the government is doing, but I have to urge you to pay attention to what power you have as a member of your community. As I understand it, you're in Nigeria. There is something called the NIDCOM, which is the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission. We're asking you to be willing to connect together with Nigerians around the world who have very sharp interest in what the government is doing. But no one expects you, Hamza Abu Muhammad, to make a statement that changes the mind of the government. However, working with all of us and everyone that you know in Nigeria, along with those outside the continent of Nigeria that have an impact, need to be connected. So what I'm suggesting is that we take the first step, understand there is, in fact, an organization already in place that was put there by the African Union to connect together the power of people in the diaspora with the power of the people on the continent. Just recently as November 13th through the 15th, there was a summit that went on right there where you are in Nigeria. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but I'm asking you to first pay attention to the power that you have, power that's within your reach. These are very brief, but I'm going to share these with you.
The Nigeria Diaspora Summit Initiative, NDSI, in partnership with Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, presents the 6th Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit with the theme, New Vistas, New Aspirations, New Visions, the Diaspora and National Development. This event will take place on November 13th to 15th, 2023 in Abuja. For more information and pre-registration, please visit www.ndisng.com.
Now, Hamza, did you say that you're located in Abuja?
Come again?
Yes. Were you aware of this event?
No.
What I'm suggesting is that this is an annual event. So I would suggest you get ready now to be able to participate in events that are happening in your local community, because there you can have conversations with people who have an interest such as yours, but who can work with you to accomplish your objectives to have impact on the government policies in your local communities. However, as I said, this is only the 3rd workshop. The 2nd workshop last week dealt with an organization called the United Nations Global Compact. That is an existing worldwide organization started in 2000, where people like ourselves, volunteers that are working in the civil society, can engage with businesses and the governments to have impact on our local community. For example, there are exhibits.
The e-Naira is a central bank digital currency, and the CBN established it as an alternative channel to be able to make payments. It's the electronic form of the cash that you have at hand. The speed of transaction is faster, and the technology is built upon, which is blockchain. Well, it gives CBN more visibility, especially with the diaspora community, to be able to also talk about some of the policies we have and how they directly affect not just Nigerians, but also Nigerians in diaspora.
This publication is actually an initiative by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission under the leadership of Honorable AHIABGA-TV to celebrate Nigerian icons across the world. Nigerians who are blazing trails, who are achieving in their various sectors, fields, and various academics. A lot of people have also asked, asked us to ship this manga to them, at their various countries where they reside, and shipping is already going on. And this is just first edition. Second edition is also in the pipeline. So we'll continue to identify with some of our diasporans who are doing very well across the world.
It will really go a long way in showcasing our products, our company, and
I've networked with people. I've met so many people from other countries, and it's eye-opening. It's a really great event.
It's been eventful, honestly, and we have had an amazing opportunity to meet prospective clients, brand exposure, and all of that.
So Hamza, what I'm suggesting to you is that part of the objective of the Sustainable Development Goals is to leave no one behind. But part of the objective of this workshop is that you don't leave yourself behind. You need to connect together with activities that are happening in your local community. Hamza, you are a perfect representative of WHOPE there in Abuja to contact directly these organizations and activities where you can carry your voice and ours along with you so that we can have a wider impact on the world. But I'm suggesting again that all of you in Nigeria connect together with your diaspora commission
Hamza, can you mute yourself,
so that we can connect together globally. You may need to familiarize yourself with the Diaspora Act, which establishes the Nigerian and Diaspora Commission, provide for engagement of Nigerians in the diaspora in the policies, projects, and participation of local events in the country. You have to consider that the diaspora policy is a resource, or they accept the diaspora as a resource, an asset for national development in Nigeria. The function is to mobilize and execute programs that will complement and advise the federal government on major areas of accelerated development. And the objective is to do the very same thing that Charles Sharp talked about yesterday. We're not getting involved with politics. We're getting involved with policies. The objective is to initiate policies needed to recognize and harness the potential of Nigerians and diaspora networks and organizations. That means you. So I'm asking all of you to understand that on a regular, ongoing basis, on a weekly basis, you can simply tap into the NTA network on Tuesdays at 3:30, Sundays at 10:30 a.m., Saturdays at 11 a.m., Tuesdays at 3 p.m., and Fridays at 3 p.m. to find out what is going on in your local community, Hamza, that you can then become a better representative of what we're trying to accomplish. I hope that answered your question.
Someone puts in something yet. Victor Nandi.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Though the guest speaker have dealt a little bit with what I wanted to ask, but what I wanted to add, sir, is when you look at the last time we have the issue of disaster like flooding. Now, taking a reference to the last speaker, was talking about urban planning. We all know how our towns and villages are somehow shaped. And the places we always have problem is in the rural communities. Now, as a member of IDMSS, we've established the fact that at the state level, we have disaster managers, and we'll have them at the federal level. But then that synergy, to link between federal and state seems to always have problem when you come to the local community because there is no office there. There is nobody. We all know that individually to fight disaster or be a disaster manager at the local level need a lot of resources. And some of these folks in the village don't have partners to deal with them. And just like the speaker said, leveraging on our diaspora people and then linking back to the villages, even though we are in Abuja, but the fact remains that the main bulk of the problem is some of these community informations we share, maybe from NIMET and the rest of them. The people in the village don't get to hear them. So there must be an established offices in the rural villages because proactiveness, mitigation is the key. Without being proactive, without helping people tell them what they need to do, where they need to open up channels, where they need to open up gutters and rest of them, the same old stories will come. But we always like to have a fire brigade approach. At the end of the day, well, people write a lot of books and it comes back to nothing. So that is just what I want to add up, sir.
Well, thank you. And I would have to tell you that I would urge you to look at what we've already been dealing with. Just this past week, I had the privilege of sharing an event that was broadcast from the University of Ibadan. What I'm recommending is that we establish what I call an INAB an INAB collaborative. That means the interfaith community, nonprofit or non-governmental organization community, and the academic community, which includes colleges and universities, and B, the business community, to work together collectively to accomplish these objectives. You're talking about problems that are happening in your rural community, but as you can see, the University of Ibadan actually has a variety of colleges that are set up to deal with these very same issues that you're talking about. You yourself are in a much better position than I am to be able to address situations in your local area. But again, no one is asking you yourself to make the change that's important for your entire community to improve. What we're asking you to do is take what you learned from us here to be able to establish stronger relationships so that you can accomplish the goals and objectives that you intend. But I have to ask you all to limit your comments and questions to what it is we're addressing today. And so I'm ready to then answer your question, Emmanuel, or do you need more information from me? I'm sorry. If that's all of that, next speaker.
No, I think I was at Andrew.
Yeah.
I think Naketa put in something in the box, trying to say, okay, communication technology to keep local and global communities connected during a disaster. Can you speak to this issue?
Okay, just a moment, sir.
Disconnected during COVID.
I apologize. I'm trying to find it. Could you repeat that? I didn't hear it clearly.
Okay. From Naketa, saying communication and or technology to keep local and global communities connected during the disaster. Can you speak to this issue? I saw a lot of people disconnected during COVID.
Well, yes, I do see it now. Thank you so much, Nakita, for that question. Nakita, first let me ask you, where are you located now? Can you unmute yourself or speak to us?
Madam Naketa, can you unmute yourself and say something about that?
Or type into the chat where you are.
Yes, and you can also type in the chat. Oh. Yes, can you say something?
From where are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can. Welcome to our...
Great, thank you. I am actually in the United States, and I live in a major city, Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your question. I have to tell you, however, that we covered that topic yesterday. You will have a chance to review that video if we get your information. Also, Dr. Anita was there, but I'm unable to easily access the information about that. But in terms of communications is concerned, a brief answer is here in Los Angeles, for example, we have what's called the CERT, the Community Emergency Response Teams. And this is spread now throughout the country. But the information is available online, wherever you are, your local neighborhood, you can connect together with people in your area using available online resources. In Los Angeles, we do it through our city. In Cleveland, you may be able to do that also. But there is, for example, ham radios. The idea is that each of us needs to be able to have a method of communications in case the internet gets shut down. Well, ham radio is one of the ways that we can do that here in the United States. Much more easy or much easier than people around the country, around the world can. So I would have to ask you to explore, simply Google in your local area, emergency response planning or community emergency response training. So the short answer, Nikita, is that the information is readily available, but you have to, again, undertake human right number 29 responsibility and take responsibility for asking what you want to find out and then finding out what it is and then working with others to help address that issue. If you're a member of a church, for example, this is where the interfaith comes in. It would behoove you to talk with your pastor and other members of your congregation to make sure all of you can stay connected in the event of a disaster. That may mean that you need to set up your own ham radio committee or group so that at least those of you that are within the church can be able to communicate with each other. Of course, in many cases in the United States, unfortunately, the plan for disasters that occur in urban communities like mine in Los Angeles is to shut down the freeway system so people cannot get in or get out. So it's important that you know what's happening in your own local community, and now's the time to find that out. There is an app called Map Your Neighborhood that allows you to identify those resources in your immediate area where you can reach out to find information and resources for trying to accomplish what you want to get done, Nikita. But that's as in-depth as I can answer that question today. But the resources that we talked about yesterday will be made available to you at the end of the course if we have your email address. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Certainly. You're very welcome.
I'm checking the box too. I think Dr. Anita is trying to send a link to you as well to know more about what you have just asked. So thank you so much. Ambassador Andrew, is there another thing?
I'm having challenges seeing my chat, so I have to leave it up to you if people can either raise their hands or make a comment. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to you, Pastor James, for wrapping it up for today.
Okay, please, any other question from anyone or any comment? Just raise your hand. And I want to use this opportunity to welcome those that are just joining us for today, like Odudu. I think I'm just saying Odudu here. And I know Jami Yi was here yesterday. And okay, I think somebody came in with a number, but no name. You're welcome as well. I think this is your first time as well. And 163162755. We don't know who you are. If we have to give you certificate, we don't know who to award the certificate to because we can't just write numbers in that certificate. That's why if you are joining us, you have to put in your name. for us to know who is participating in the program. So we just want to say thank you everyone for joining us. And I think at this Johnson, we have to show our camera to take good photographs. And the pictures you have been taking, I've not been saying it. I don't know where I've been sending that to. We want you to take pictures and share with us. Share your pictures with us. That's what we need. And that's why you say you should take pictures. And more so, I have just sent on the link on the chat, WhatsApp link, community support group. You can equally join that WhatsApp group. It is open to everyone because we have a lot of community programs going on. Even at December, we're planning to have programs in Lagos, in Ibadan, and some other places as we are planning to have it. So please, you can join us on that platform to know more about our programs and activities. So thank you, everyone. I think somebody is taking the picture. Are you all taking the picture? Let's show your beautiful faces. I know some are not here. If you are here, show your beautiful face and handsome faces. So we take group photographs. Yeah, and if you are not smiling, that means something is wrong. If you are not smiling, that means something is wrong. So, but for us to be sure everything is well, you have to give that smile to hit someone else. Smile heals. Yes, you're giving to nations, okay? Prosper, you're welcome. I think, okay, we are having wonderful faces here. Oh, is that your face? Oh, Naketa, that's wonderful. That's cool, that's cool. Are we taking pictures? I trust Dr. Anita, I might have taken 2 or 3. Are we all taking pictures? Take your picture, take it. So Mesh, I've told you that your smile, in fact, is priceless. I will have bought it, but it's priceless.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take pictures. Are you taking that? Okay, thank you everyone once again for joining us in this program. Today marks the 3rd day of this program, the workshop for all our volunteers, talking about the disaster awareness, disaster planning, disaster recovery, and so on and so forth. Here we have shared our experiences, we have shared our information, we have shared how we could, and Ambassador Andrew Williams Jr. has taught us much today. All we need to do is to do more research. Let's do more work to understand what we have learned better. And I want to say this, that is why we are having NGOs, non-governmental organizations now doing things in their various communities, because we could not depend only on the government. Government cannot do it alone. So let us also do our best. Let us also do our best to support the government for the betterment or the development of humanity, wherever we are. So this is the clarion call, and this is part of why we are coming for this training, to help us be useful wherever we are and wherever we find ourselves. So thank you everyone for joining us. Well, I'm going to hand over to His Excellency Andrew Williams Jr. Prof. Anita, you say you didn't take pictures? Why?
Well, that's a wrap for today. Thanks everyone. This has been day 3 of our 4-day work.
Thank you, sir.